The courtroom was silent. Only the faint echo of the judge's gavel striking polished wood broke the stillness, a sound that lingered in the air, heavy and final like the closing of a coffin lid. Across the room sat a frail woman, Martha Elwood, hunched at the defense table. Her trembling hands wrapped around a faded handbag as if it were her last possession on earth. A widow. A woman who had already lost everything but her dignity, and even that was being stripped away before a room full of strangers. "Mrs. Elwood," the judge had said earlier, his tone sharp with disdain. "It seems you're asking this court for mercy. Perhaps you should have thought of that before failing to pay your debts." A smirk tugged at his lips. Quiet laughter rippled through the courtroom, cruel and mocking, especially from the plaintiff's table. To them, Martha was just another old woman behind on her mortgage, another case number in a long list. But to Martha, this wasn't about money. It was about the home her late husband, Harold, had built with his own hands. The house where every creaking floorboard still whispered his voice. Soft music pause. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, in the idea that one good deed can change a life, please take a second to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Corner. Because what happens next will remind you. Not all heroes wear badges or suits. Martha sat quietly, as the opposing lawyer, a sharp-tongued man in an expensive suit, tore her apart with paperwork and arrogance. "Your home," he said coldly, "is collateral, and the law is the law." The judge nodded along, amused. Martha's public defender barely looked up from his notes, too intimidated to speak. Hopelessness hung in the air. The walls of that gleaming courtroom shimmered with light. Yet Martha's world had never felt darker. 3 years earlier, her husband Harold, a mechanic, hard-working and kind, had died suddenly of a heart attack. Funeral costs, hospital bills, and the loss of their only income had buried her in debt. Her small-town bank had since been bought by a corporate giant. They didn't want her for the debt. They wanted the land. Martha had begged for more time. She had written letters, pleaded with the court, prayed. But by the time her case reached that bench, she had already accepted that no one cared, or so she thought. Because 3 days earlier, fate had quietly started writing a new chapter. It happened outside a roadside diner. Martha had dropped her purse without noticing. A man sitting on a Harley, broad-shouldered, tattooed, his leather vest reading Hell's Angels, saw it happen. He picked it up and jogged after her, finding her struggling with her grocery bags. "Ma'am, you dropped this," he said, his voice steady but kind. She thanked him softly. Her eyes were tired, glossy with tears she tried to hide. When he gently asked if she was okay, she told him her story, not seeking pity, not asking for help. She just needed someone to listen. The man's name was Ronan, and when she finished speaking, he simply said, "Don't worry, ma'am. You're not alone anymore." Martha smiled sadly. She didn't believe him. Not until this morning. Back in the courtroom, the judge leaned forward, preparing to deliver his final blow. "Mrs. Elwood," he said coldly, "this court hereby rules in favor of the—" The heavy double doors creaked open. Every head turned. 3 men walked in, their boots striking the marble floor like rolling thunder. The first was Ronan. His salt and pepper beard caught the light. His leather vest gleamed with patches that told stories of miles, roads, and brotherhood. Behind him were 2 others, one bald with a long, dark beard, the other younger, with shoulder-length brown hair and sunglasses. They didn't look like they belonged in a courtroom. Yet they walked as if they owned the moment. The bailiff stepped forward nervously, but Ronan raised a calm hand. "We're not here for trouble," he said, voice deep and steady. He walked straight to the defense table and stopped beside Martha. She looked up at him, stunned. Ronan placed a large envelope on the table. "That's a certified check," he said firmly, locking eyes with the judge. "Covers everything she owes, the debt, the interest, the court fees." "You can stop laughing now." The room froze. The judge's mouth hung open. The opposing lawyer blinked in disbelief. 10 long seconds passed before the judge cleared his throat and muttered, If the payment is verified, then this case is dismissed." Martha gasped. her hands flying to her mouth. Tears flooded her eyes. That same courtroom, once cold and merciless, now echoed with freedom. The same people who had looked at her with pity now watched her with awe. Ronan gently helped her to her feet. "Told you, ma'am," he whispered with a smile. "You're not alone anymore." Martha couldn't speak. She just held his hand and whispered through her tears. "Thank you." Sunlight streamed through the tall windows, golden and warm. She felt her husband's spirit in that light, as if he were smiling at her from above. As the bikers turned to leave, the once judgmental courtroom erupted in quiet applause. Even the judge, flustered and humbled, gave a reluctant nod. Martha sat back down, clutching her old handbag, but this time it didn't hold just memories. It held her new beginning. When the heavy doors closed behind those men, the sound didn't echo with fear. It echoed with hope. Before we end, tell me in the comments, what did you feel when the bikers walked in? Did it remind you that kindness can come from the most unexpected hearts? That evening, Martha sat on her porch, the sunset painting her world in color again. The wind carried the sound of distant engines fading into the horizon. Steady, strong, full of promise. She whispered a quiet prayer. Not for herself, but for the men who reminded her that angels sometimes ride motorcycles. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to Kindness Corner. Because somewhere out there, someone still believes in doing good even when the world stops caring.